Come and get it, everybody. ChiroFEAST is online and we are ready to serve. Let me give you a little taste of where we're going today. This is a boot camp that I organized with a gentleman who has added other services to his chiropractic practice. And it gave me a great idea to talk about that subject, because it's probably one of the most common things out there in terms of chiropractors expanding and adding more to the services, to their lines that they're already offering, etc., to grow your practice, more revenue streams, etc. But it's not always a good idea. So here are some of the things you're going to learn today by listening in on this boot camp that we did. And you are going to learn if you're even qualified to be adding something. Should you even be adding something? Is your team bought into this, or is this just you getting excited about it and your whole team hates the idea? Do you even have any idea what it's going to take to market this service or this line that you're looking to add? What is the education process and the strategy for incorporating it? Have you thought that far ahead to really know how you're going to incorporate it? Is there new paperwork, new processes, new things with your scheduler that you have to do, etc.? And last but not least, are you going to do it, or is there another staff member that's going to do it? Who's actually going to perform the services? So whether it's massage therapy, physical therapy, fitness, training, foot levelers, shockwave. There's all kinds of things that you can add, decompression, to your practice. When is it right for you? And if it's right for you, have you thought about the things that need to be thought about in order to do it successfully? That's where we're going today. Enjoy this episode of ChiroFEAST. We're going to have a little bit of a wide-ranging conversation. I've got Dr. Dustin Barton here from Fargo, and he's an entrepreneur that I am very excited to introduce to you guys. I know a lot of you probably already know him. He's a preferred partner with ChiroLife and with Big Fish, and so he'll tell you a little bit more about the software technology and things that he's involved with. But just from a chiropractic standpoint and a business person standpoint, Dr. Dustin is like my brother, and we go way back, being good friends with Business Finishing School and Patrick Gentempo, and the whole company, just becoming better business people. And so I respect Dustin very, very much, and I'm excited to bring him to the boot camp. And so, Dustin, welcome to the show here. And if you can maybe give us so people understand who you are, like where you've been, what you've done. I'm going to let you kind of toot your horn a little bit about where you've come from and where you're headed with your current business.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and thank you for having me as a guest. And there's some of these names that I think I've come across, and others that I've heard in passing. So this is exciting, and knowing what we can do here today to help others. Um, I guess the long story short, I've been in practice for 18 years. Some days it seems like 42, and other days it seems like two. I was just talking to some practice members about it this morning. Um, I kind of got thrown to the wolves coming out of school, and I actually, full disclosure, had a practice member who didn't know, but threw a lawsuit against me when I first came out of school, about a year and a half, 2 years in. It was a bunch of chiropractors that actually were coming after me because I was a wellness doctor. It was the Good Old Boys Club of North Dakota, and they didn't like what I was doing, and they wanted to stop it because it went against what they did. And so I was, by what I mean by thrown to the wolves, is immediately I had to have some people back me that were behind the technology and the different forms of practice that we were practicing at that time. So that's actually how I got introduced to Jin Tempo. I got introduced to Matt McCoy. I got introduced to Christopher Kent, all by happenstance, because I was in the middle of a predicament. But like anything else, as we go through something, if we don't point fingers at ourselves and feel bad about ourselves, we figure out that it's for the good of humanity, right? And the good of ourselves. And so I started an EPOC group up here. Troy Dukowitz helped me get that going because I wanted to formulate a brother and sisterhood of everybody coming together. And then my practice continued to grow from then because the more that I gave out, the more that came back. And it wasn't something I was looking to do. It was just something that happened. And I really believe that's how we've connected over the years. I mean, I knew about you going through school, but when I came out of school, I was out of the area, so out of sight, out of mind. And then as God has it, he attracts everybody back in the direction that they need to. And that's when we started seeing each other around business finishing school. And Rick Sapio was one of my greatest mentors that I've ever met. I think anyone that's met him knows he's a different character. He's not with us anymore, unfortunately. I got to see him in his last couple days before he transitioned on, and it's still to his last moments. He was giving me words of encouragement and advice of things to do and legacies to continue to extend as I grace myself on the planet as well too. So that's kind of how it came to, is a little bumps and bruises. Got some rhino skin on me. And as time went on, everybody that I met was really the people who I wanted to be around and help me grow. So we went from just doing chiropractic for the first 13 years of practice to when I was in 2014 or 2011, sorry, I was paralyzed from the waist down. So I didn't do drugs or surgery. I had some things that I needed to figure out on my own, is what I thought, what God was challenging me with. And 2.5 years later, I was able to do some things finally, um, without using my roller chair at work as a wheelchair. And so I learned a lot about myself coming through that as well too, that I could pass on all that knowledge to other people. And then that's where roughly around 5, 6 years ago we got introduced to the shockwave technology that really we've taken and run with. And reason we got introduced to that is I was really for about 5, 6 months laying on the floor at my home. I couldn't move. I get home from work and I was completely exhausted. I got nothing left in my body. Legs wouldn't move, wouldn't function. It'd take me about 12 to 18 hours to get everything back going again and then just show up to work and serve again. And so I remember at that time, I'm laying on the floor and my kids are wanting me to get up and play, but I can't even play. I got a Barbie in one hand and I have a Matchbox car in the other, and I couldn't move. And at that point, I knew I needed to do something more than what had been. And whether my phone was listening to me or the computers were listening to me, the next thing I know, there was a Softwave ad on Facebook, and I kept looking at it, kept looking at it, and as a mutual friend that we know, Jeff May had already purchased one, and the representative said, "Hey, get in touch with him." And so I did, and the first words Jeff said to me were, "I should have bought it 9 months ago. You should buy it now as well too." And bought it, and on the idea that if it worked for me, you couldn't stop me with what will happen next. If you can change my life, I'll help change others. And so that's really how I got into the industry, is my own circumstances. I needed to help myself, and if it was going to help me, there was going to be no stopping because the belief was in me at that moment. And it was just a matter of, before we did it, really the biggest issue I didn't bring it in is not so much the money, is I knew the business wasn't ready for it. And so I had a lot of conversations with Rick Sapio actually about that. Like, how do we bring this in? If it's going to blow up, I mean, it's going to take our business to another level. We can expand it. Should be a standalone. So all those questions were asked, and maybe slower than I probably should have. And then we got the technology roughly in 2021. And yeah, so it's been 5 years of utilizing it. We have 3 different devices. I've trained somewhere between 800 to 1,000 different docs across the U.S. on how to utilize these different devices, and it's been a blessing. I mean, I'm at about 95% function for my body, so I'm doing great myself. And I don't know if I'll ever get the 5% back, but I'm surely working at it. And then being able to meet others that are looking for not only their own health. That's really what I find with this technology. I think that's probably what you find with a lot of things too, Jeff, right? Is that we find that people are wanting it for themselves to some degree, and they realize how great it is, and they want to pass that story on and help others. And I think that's been probably one of the greatest, side benefits to having this technology, is it helped me, but now I get to show others how to save their careers.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, just hearing your story and hearing what you've gone through, and thank you for being so vulnerable and authentic and genuine. I think that's the way we all need to be, as we're encouraging other people and helping other chiropractors and other clinics become successful. Is just our humility and our authenticity. So thank you for that.
Yep.
For those of you that are on the call or listening to this, there's kind of a saying that goes that if if 20 people stood in a circle and we all put our problems in the center, and therefore we could see the problems of other people, we would grab ours back quickly. And I think that's definitely the case with you. I mean, how many of us that are listening to this right now are basically laying paralyzed on the floor, wondering what to do? I would venture to say none of us are in that situation. Thank the Lord. Um, we have our own issues, we have our own problems, our own challenges, right? Um, but Dustin went through this so that he can help others, do better and do more. And so thankful. I'm not happy that you went through that, Dr. Dustin. I wish you didn't, man. But in that you did, I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful for your attitude through it, because that's one thing we have control over is our attitude. And I can just picture you on the floor, exasperated and frustrated, but then, thinking, thinking about Rick Sapio, or, get off your ass, you
Yeah.
bum. Don't take this laying down there. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out a workaround. Let's go. That's what an entrepreneur will do, and a true business champion will do. So, congratulations on that, and your success is well deserved. Um,
Appreciate that.
I'm gonna start with a question, and so this is kind of the anti-sales, okay? The anti-sales moment. You've helped hundreds of doctors become successful with a new service. And we're going to talk in generalizations a little bit, because whether you're adding physical therapy to your practice, whether you're adding acupuncture, whether you're adding massage, adding shockwave, there are certain things that need to be done or prepared in a way and strategized over in order for it to be successful. And I'm sure, Dustin, that you've had folks that weren't successful. Personally, I teach chiropractors around the country to do sponsorships through Team Doc as a way to get new patients in the door. And I've had people that were not successful at it. And so before we talk about the great things that have happened for a lot of the clinics in providing like the shockwave services, tell me a little bit about your experience in having people not succeed. Because honestly, for me, it's one of the worst things that I deal with is when somebody's not being successful with a system that I love so much and has worked so well for me. And when they're not being successful with it, I take it very personally, and it bothers me. It bugs the crap out of me. And so I've come to the point where if I see the things line up that I know are going to keep them from becoming successful with this product or this service, I won't sell it to them. So, what are some of those things that you see in practices that you're like, oh boy, this person's not ready? This should not be something that you add yet until you do X, Y, and Z. What do you see?
Yeah. The first thing I see is actually observation of what's in their closets in their current business if they've been in business for a while. If somebody already has, mechanical devices, technology, different apparatuses already sitting around collecting dust,
Yep.
my first question to them is, how did we get involved with this? What went right? What went wrong? As one of our mentors, I'll say it again, Rick Sapio, the business lens. When I'd start asking questions, once I got that framework down of what actually, where did I go wrong in the past? What services did I bring in that didn't work out well? And figured that part out, then it's easy to walk into somebody else's office and you see things sitting around and go, if that works in several different offices or hundreds of offices, why didn't it work in yours? And I think it's
Yep.
asking those tough questions. It's asking the question of what's already currently sitting around in your office that you're not utilizing, that you probably have a loan on right now. It's been sitting there and you didn't get the cash back on what you thought it would be, but you were sold. Like you said, like this is the anti-sale part. Like one of the reasons why some of these companies didn't work out well with me when I was helping represent them is I am probably a little bit too brash with having that conversation up front because my name does stick with that transaction afterwards.
Yep.
And people would call and I'd find out their finances and I'd hear that they're suffering, 10 years in and they're wanting to add a $90,000 device to their business and they didn't even figure out what the loan would be. They didn't figure out it'd take somebody to man that, what the consumable costs would be. So, digging into those numbers, and I bet you one salesperson, I wasn't a salesperson for this, but to have some background on this, um, I was at like 40% of the people that I was speaking to, I would say are good to go with the sales transaction. 60% of them I would report back to the company and say, this is a terrible decision for this business at this moment. You're going to put them belly up. They're already struggling. They say they have 1 year maybe left of practice and cash flow, and you're going to stick them with this bill all on the hope that they're going to do something. And they already have 7 other instruments sitting in their office that didn't do anything for them. So it's not the instrument issue. It's a psychological between the ears issue of why won't they commit to something that's bigger than themselves? What don't they believe in that they can go out into the community and look somebody eye to eye? So I don't know if that answers it upright, but that's kind of the way that I look at it is, what's sitting around, what makes a person not put those into play? Why weren't they successful when I know there's hundreds of other offices that are successful with that? And then asking the real questions to yourself, which is, and I had this wrote down too, you got to be clearly defined. Are you trying to solve a problem for your business? Or are you trying to add a solution to the community when it comes to health?
Amen. I think too, um, anybody that is looking for a lifeline for their practice to survive is a bad that's a bad person to be looking to expand. I mean, we're talking about expansion, whether it's with shockwave technology or with acupuncture or whatever. It's expansion. You only, from a business standpoint, you should only be expanding if you've already achieved a strong base of success with what you started with. And in this case, chiropractic.
Right.
Um, because if you can't do one thing well, what makes you think you can do two things well at the same time? Or three things or four things. And I mean, you've seen it so many times too, where people they add too many options and services to their offerings that they end up not doing anything well,
Right.
and nothing is going well. And now you've got money spent in all kinds of equipment and all kinds of people doing all kinds of different things, and none of them are going well.
Hmm.
So get really solid and good and stable with what your main thing is, and then you can expand, and that's a good thing to add more services that, like what you said, adds to the benefit of the community. You're
Right.
not going to benefit the community if you're not surviving. So if you're looking for a lifeline to survive in practice, bad idea. Bad idea.
And I think
Uh,
now more than ever, sorry to interrupt you, but now more than ever, with Facebook, Instagram, and all these people trying to sell, we get so many distractions. It looks like an opportunity, like 25,000 in your first month guaranteed or money back guarantee, and then you, like anybody else, you find out that they didn't do it, didn't achieve it, and now they're squandering trying to figure out how to return this device, whether it's a decompression, whether it's massage table, it doesn't matter. It's all the same because if it didn't fit what you're aligned with in the future, it'll never fit in the current moment.
yeah. So I've got a few other things, and you might have some comments on these three things that I just wrote down. When you add something to the practice, it's not about you, the owner. It's about the team. Okay. Now you might be the only person. I own a clinic with Brian Belcher up in Grand Rapids. He's the only employee, so he just has to be on board himself. But if you've got a team of four, or if you've got a team of 12, like here at Northern Life, everybody's got to be on board with adding what you're adding.
Right.
And we came on board recently with KinetiSense, which is a great tool and a great service. And we had everybody gathered around, and we said, do you want this? Is this something you can really get behind? And we went around the room, and and everybody was excited about adding it. And when you have buy-in from everyone, that makes it good. But I've coached a lot of clinics where the owner was bought in at a seminar where he heard how great you could do, and he came back to the office, and everybody else looked at him like he had three heads. And they're
Yeah.
like, no, I ain't selling this. And if your team isn't behind it, you're screwed. Um, so purpose and passion has to be there. And then marketing strategy. And this is something I know you're really good at. So maybe you can talk about this. If people are not willing to have a marketing strategy behind it, it's not going to work either.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone that's on this call been in practice long enough, you've been pitched the newspaper, the television, online, radio, you name it. And if it's not aligned with where the customer's coming from, it's difficult. For example, with Shockwave, specific to this conversation right now, it's very difficult to show somebody on the radio what a shockwave visit looks like. So
Right.
that doesn't align with what your marketing strategy would be. Just no different if you're going to add weight loss. Putting weight loss on the radio is maybe an idea, but probably not your best idea when you're not picturing what it looks like to lose weight. Because when, like anything else, I was told years ago, you put the keys into the hand of a future owner of a vehicle, and they sit in the seat, they are very close to actually signing the paperwork. But if they never touch the keys and they never sit in the seat, they don't know what that experience looks like or feels like. And I think you most definitely need to be aligned with that and know that whatever marketing services that you're utilizing are related to what you're doing. So for us, Shockwave is all over the internet up here. We spend thousands on it because we can show videos, we can have testimonials, people can see what it looks like. The word Shockwave in general sounds scary. We get people that still come in and like, "You're going to shock me." I said, yeah, it's one of the one of the worst named industries that's out there, but we got to work with it. So then you got that too. You got to overcome what somebody else named the industry, and you got to be
Right.
able to communicate that to them too. So that's even a difficult scenario that a lot of people don't talk about. And in a lot of these services that are being and technology that are being provided and sold are saying, in the first 30, 60, 90 days, you're going to get your money back or whatever it be. What they don't tell you is when the honeymoon phase is over, meaning when the team is no longer excited about it, when people aren't coming through the door, when the revenue isn't showing the way you want, then what? And after 90 days, usually with all these different equipment, which is why it sits around in closets, then what is, they don't know. And if you
Yeah.
didn't have a strategy going in, which is just people are going to come because I have a roof over my head, you're going to be in a lot of trouble no matter what you add. So for us to get this specific service in, we made sure that we hired a marketing company months in advance of actually purchasing the device because we needed to get it rolling before we started paying the money. We needed to get people signed up. We needed them to get excited. We needed to do internal that aligned with it as well too. We needed to be able to understand the technology to explain it to the community as well as our current practice members and build a base. But before even then, it had to work with us. So you're spot on with that, Dr. Jeff, that it had to work with us. We had to try it on the doctors. It was it enough to convince us that, yeah, the technology is what it was and it does make a big difference. Then we had to do it with our team. And then beyond that, it wasn't one or two visits. You're looking at protocols with a lot of this different technology, whether it's shockwave or decompression. What happens when you put 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 100 people through the protocol? Does it really come out on the end? They say the protocol works, but does it work for you? Because we all know that we have all kinds of adjusting techniques out there. Nobody, for whatever reason, in our profession follows it to a T. They make it their own after 6 months because they get bored. And if you do that with a lot of these different technologies, you know what? Your checkbook's going to get really bored after a while of you just writing checks and not creating revenue to, get a source of income to pay for what you're doing. So there's a lot of checklists that we utilize when adding a different service into the office, not one that makes our bank account go up.
So, how do you communicate with a potential doctor who's looking to add a service like Shockwave? How much do they have to spend on marketing, and for how long? Because my guess is, as long as you want that machine to be doing its job and producing income and getting the results in the community, obviously there's going to be some momentum to people referring their friends and family and that kind of thing. But my guess is that you probably have to continue marketing forever. I mean, I've been in practice for 32 years, and I mean, marketing is one of the biggest things we do on a regular basis. So how do you advise people about what they're going to have to spend for marketing?
Yeah, and we've actually now have several years of experience of seeing where this is coming from. For us, about every thousand that we spend out into the internet world, we get roughly about 15 people that will come in for the office. And of that, they're not all qualified. I think that's something that a lot of people need to understand too. You know, if you're being pitched by a marketing company, just because they come through the door doesn't mean they're qualified. And we are really diligent on making sure that somebody's qualified. And what does qualified mean? That at the end of whatever our protocol is going to be for that individual case, we're going to get the result that we know we're going to get so that they, in turn, are going to be referring to us. So roughly 30 to 40% of our people are internal referrals on any given month. And that's on the low end, but we just tell people, expect 60% of these different types of devices to come from the outside. And if you want to have, 30 new people come in, potentially, then you might be looking at, depends on your market space. We're a little bit smaller than the big cities of Minneapolis and Chicago, so we don't have to compete with as many doctors. We're looking at roughly 2,000 to 3,000 minimum just on expense. That's not creating the ad, that's just the money spent to get it in front of people. And that's to about 275,000 people is all. So if your city's, bigger than that and you reach further, that's a whole different ballgame for you. With some of the different services that we rendered in the past, our marketing budget was $5,000 to $8,000 a month minimum to get what we needed to out of it because the acquisition cost was so high to catch their attention and for them to understand what that was about based upon the service. So if you're looking to add a service, you got to really understand what type of service are you adding and how complicated is it to communicate. If it's we always look at it as an end shelf unit, meaning if you had it at a grocery store, could you set it up at the end of an aisle and can somebody look at it and go, I know exactly what that is? Or do
Right.
you actually have to have somebody like in Costco that has to stand there next to the end aisle and demonstrate what it's about? Now your cost for acquisition is higher. So how well can you communicate it or can it communicate on its own is a big difference in marketing.
Yeah. No, I definitely love to hear from Cassandra a little bit. Cassandra does the marketing for Big Fish and also for Northern Life and another chiropractic clinic as well. And as you look at different services, Cassandra, how do you balance like what you're going to spend your time on? And I know there's different for different clinics, there's different purposes and different, maybe one clinic is a little bit more focused on massage or a little bit more focused on acupuncture. But how do you make that decision on where and how you spend your money,
Yeah,
especially when you're adding something new?
I think too, kind of going back to the miss where it's fun and flashy for the team for a little bit and they want to tell people about it, their current patients and stuff about it. And then a lot of times it gets missed into like follow up protocols or onboarding it into the processes that are already successfully working and seeing if they qualify for that additional option and then maintaining that depending on the equipment such as like Kinetic. But I think too, understanding the target audience is super important because, for example, for massage, prenatal can be a great one to market as well, and understanding, the different sectors that it helps. So for soft wave, it could be sciatica, it could be arthritis, it can be all these different sectors. And I think really understanding that target audience and who you're marketing to is key. Because I think a lot of times marketing goes really general. It's like if you have back pain or if you have headaches, and then they try to hit every single person versus really target niche a lot of the top, things that specific software or therapy is helping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that and what you're saying too kind of resonates with me and Dustin, maybe you can tell some stories on this too, but um, there are some people in the community that you say the word chiropractic and they're not coming. They're not going to come to your office for whatever reason. Maybe they went to somebody or they heard a story, whatever. They're not coming to a chiropractic clinic for chiropractic. But would they come to your health clinic for a different service? So, for example, in at Northern Life, we have physical therapy. we have massage therapy. And one of our biggest goals with in massage therapy, it has its own name. It's Body Needs Massage. And we have our own website. People find it, people come in, and it's the conversion of once they get into the office and they see how wonderful the space is and how beautiful it is and how nice our staff are and just how clean everything is and just it's not what they thought a chiropractic clinic was, and they come here for a massage service, and then they can be converted into a chiropractic patient by our massage therapist. So now you've got another revenue, stream coming in, a new way for people to get into your clinic. They never would have come if it hadn't been for having massage there, and that covers a lot of your overhead for massage if you're converting them to chiropractic as well. And so, Dustin, you can probably tell me some stories on how you've had people that maybe have never thought of seeing a chiropractor, but they came in for tendonitis or plantar fasciitis or something else, and then they got to know you guys and ended up becoming chiropractic patients.
Yeah, a litmus test in our office is if they trust you in one, they'll start asking questions about all. And when you've built their trust is when they ask, what church do you go to? Where do you grocery shop? Where do you board your dog? Where do you go to vacations, right? When they trust you, one, they start seeing other things. So what we found with the chiropractic side of things is, in our profession, I'll do a kind of little background quick on this, is how many times have we seen in our profession, they're going, what are you going outside of just the adjustment for? That's not chiropractic.
Right.
My brother is one of the head service managers for a local automotive large retailer here in town. And we've had this conversation. And I said, what if you guys only did oil changes? And he kind of looked and chuckled and he goes, what kind of business would that be if all you offered was one service, but you can do more?
Yeah.
If it's aligned. And I think that's the same way that if you're building a business, you have to look at it as it's a business. What opportunities do you want to create for the community as long as you're creating a solution to a problem that exists beyond your revenue stream, right? So, I mean, we see all different types of cases that I never thought we'd see before. I mean, we saw people that were paralyzed, people that had strokes. But a specific case, the guy just came in today for a year. We've been working with them for 3 weeks, so this gives people an idea. We see a lot of stroke people, but I've never seen them come back as fast as I've seen with using this type of technology, as well as PEMF, that in 3 weeks, this guy had drop foot from a year of having a stroke, couldn't move his arm higher than this, to now he can grab a bottle, his arm is full extension, he can move it around, and he just had medical testing. We don't have to tell him. He just went and had it. His arterial and venous flow is almost equal from left to right. He's all right-sided he had problems with from the stroke. And when you start seeing that, the gentleman, he literally goes, they asked me what I was doing, and they tried guessing, and I said what I was doing. They said, there's no way possible. And he goes, I'm glad what do you say? He goes, I'm glad I finally trusted myself to do something that I felt was best for me, not what someone else felt was best for them.
Wow.
And I believe that's what these services, when you're well aligned, do for your community and do for your business. So we see cases like that otherwise, would that person been able to be referred in by their medical doctor? What medical doctor is referring people in after a stroke? If they are, wonderful, you've created a great relationship, but this person had to make a decision on their own and found out that there's ways that you can be worked with and treated after having a stroke that are safe and are effective. And we can prove it with the science in our office, as well as them going back to their doctor and doing their follow-up tests. You don't have to fight somebody when the results show up. You don't have to convince them that they need to be at your office when the results show up. We use PEMF. So we have people that just come in after the marathon, before the marathon, and they know about PEMF, and that's what they're going to do. And I'm fine with it. Now, back 18 years ago, I came out of school and I was as strong as the next guy, and we were going to change the world with every time I touched a hand onto a body, and the spine was going to, take the service and run with it for the rest of your life. That we still do that. In fact, we stack our services like we've never done before, but we give options and we let them choose what they believe is best. Do you want to work with inflammation? Great. We do this with inflammation. You want to work with circulation? Wonderful. This is what we do for circulation. You want neurological well-being? Great. This is what we do. You want a detox? This is what you do. You want to do it all? We'd love to do a comprehensive plan for you. And so giving them options on the health that they're looking for, but the health that they're looking for is still aligned with a result that you know you can get.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you and I are cut from the same cloth because, man, I was coming out of school, die-hard chiropractic philosophy changed the world, innate intelligence, and I still believe it is the foundation of what I do and what I've done for 32 years. It's who I am. But at some point, you come to the realization where we can reach more people if we have other services that attract them in, and the stacking. And that's an interesting comment that you mentioned that, and I would love to ask Ross and Preston on the call here, maybe even Koo as well. Ross, I think I see your ceiling there on the video, so hopefully you're listening. But if you guys, either Ross or Preston, can comment on stacking services, and you've got 8 weeks to wellness and people that are coming into your clinics for fitness and other things. How have you seen that work with your office?
Yeah, I mean, stacking is awesome. We have Shockwave as well that we've added this year, and obviously it's not for everyone, but adding those in, so we have some patients, just like you guys are saying, that's all they do is Shockwave, and being okay with them only doing the services. But we get people coming in for chiropractic, they do wellness, they're doing exercising with a trainer, doing nutritional coaching, and then it goes the other way around. We have people that come in for 8 weeks of wellness, just they want to do the fitness center, and then they're doing massage or nutrition or chiropractic, we have physical therapy as well, so the same goes for that. So it's just utilizing the services you had and being okay for them not doing everything, even if they're just doing one thing, because more than likely, like you guys said, if you're doing the right thing, they're going to do other services over the years, which is what we're looking for.
Preston or Koo, do you guys have any similar situations in your office or anything different you can share?
Yeah, I find it that just mentioning the service, even though they don't do it immediately, I just kind of pre-phase it and then I wait for it to happen. And so I would say, hey, it looks like the program that we really need is a fitness program. You're trying to look for some strength. You want to go out walking with your son. You want to go on trails. But let's just get the chiropractic in the way. And as we get the exposure and get you feeling better, we'll start to introduce more as we go. And then as I pre-phase it, I remember that I talked to this human being because we had already set up some goals. And then I would bring it back up a month or 2 months later. And by the time you know it, they're dipped in. So
Cool. Preston?
Yeah, just building off those guys. I think, clinics that offer so many services, they don't realize what they need until they get here. Right? They might come in for soft wave, but if it's a shoulder issue, they got pain going down the arm. As chiropractors, we know it's not a shoulder issue. And that's where, at least us, we've been able to develop a lot more chiropractic patients through these other services.
Back to Dustin. Education, and let me just preface this by saying what I failed at. I'm going to throw myself under the bus. We added a foot leveler scanner, and raise your hand if you've had a foot leveler scanner in your office. We've got one, and I honestly don't even know if it works. Haven't used it. It's collecting dust. If it was in my house, it would have like clothing hanging on it. And why is that? Because number one, we weren't all bought in. The team wasn't all bought in. Number two, we didn't have good strategies to incorporate it, to get people scanned. And number three, we didn't have an education strategy. And so, Dustin, maybe you can kind of speak to, how you need to be communicating. I think Koo mentioned, you just talk about the different services. You just mention it. And sometimes just by mentioning it, people are going to right away be interested in it. Other people will remember that you mentioned it and they'll maybe grab onto it later. But there's other people that are going to need to be hearing multiple times what it does. Dustin, I had no idea it could help people with strokes. Honestly, I had no idea. I think back to all the people that I could have helped in 32 years with a shockwave system, with plantar fasciitis and elbow tendonitis and carpal tunnel and all the different things, the normal things, right? But I mean, strokes and other people like that. How do how do you coach other doctors to be educating and bringing up opportunities for people to learn more about the service that you provide?
Yeah. It goes back to the class most of us either skipped, failed to listen to, or just ignored in general, which is histology and embryology.
Mm.
As those classes were right when you started school, right? And they were boring because everything was new and you're just trying to pass a test. And full circle, that's what we're all working with. We're working with the histology of the body. We're working with cells, whether you adjust, whether they get food, whether they do an exercise, whether you're working on their mental well-being, you're working with the molecules that make up the human being. And at the end of the day, they all can be influenced in all these different strategies just as long as that you know the direction that you want to get for a result. So for us, it's making sure that we're educating them on the idea of what the problem is. You know, they don't have, like we do a lot of neuropathy ads. They don't have neuropathy. What causes neuropathy? And what are the things that are linked to it? It's a lack of circulation, too much inflammation, and a lack of neurological well-being. So with that, we educate them on what are when you look at the top diseases in the world, they all have one common factor. And yes, we as chiropractors, we say it's a subluxation, you know, uh, great. If we want to say that or not say that, part of the subluxation complex is inflammation, correct? Your body naturally responds to a trauma with inflammation to protect itself. Great. So if inflammation is part of it, then you look at all these major diagnoses in the world, inflammation is part of that too. So who's taking what we say, and it's been key because we messed up majorly in different ways. We don't say we take care of inflammation. We ask them a question, and we'll ask them the question of who's taking care of the localized inflammation. You're doing all these wonderful detoxes. You're working out. You're going to church. You're having spa days. Those are all global inflammatory. That's the whole body. You need to do those. But who's taking care of the localized inflammation that's destroying that joint, destroying the myelin sheath in that area? So we really do bring our practice members to the point of understanding, and they're more intelligent than we give them credit for. They've done so much research. I mean, in 18 years of practice, the first 5 years, they never did research. They came in and trusted you. The last 10 to 15 years, they're coming in with packets of information either on their phone, in their head, or in their hands, and they're saying, this is what I have, and this is what I know. And if you can't match the game that I have right now, it's like that card game when we were kids, right? The match game. You flip one card. If you flip the wrong card, you don't match them. They're out the doors because they already know more than what you know about their problems because of how it's impacting their life. So for us, we want to match what they already know. And they're coming in with inflammation issues and they've heard about it. They know that there's something to do, but they don't know what to do for it. And inflammation is, a part of the body's natural intelligence. So why not work with that versus avoid it? And the reason why it's avoided is most people don't know how to work with it. And nor did I till 5 years ago. And now you get a stroke victim that walks into your office, you can tell them right away that this area is inflamed. They go, yeah, it feels heavy. And you'll say those words to them like, does your shoulder feel heavy and you can't move it? Yeah. Does it feel like when you grip something, you can't feel anything because it's everything just feels like it's an extra hand? So we really do educate them on the side that they already know. They know coming in that there's something more wrong than what they're being told. And if you can understand, histology at that level, which was not a strong suit of mine, but it definitely is of understanding how to do it now. That's where you can start having the confidence to take these cases on and look at somebody and say, yeah, we got you. But with that, the other part of the education that I'll leave you with is we, based upon this different technology as well too, we give them 1 to 4 visits. I've seen enough of this. And if we don't get a 5 to 20% result in the first 1 to 4 visits, that specific technology that we're utilizing is not a game changer for them. It's not going to be what's going to move the needle. So then we have other services that would have to do with inflammation or not, or where do we refer to? Um, that's freeing as a doctor. I don't believe that you should just give it out, and just refer everything out. But we do refer a lot of people who don't fit what we do because I want the best for them, not the best for the business. At the end of the day, when I see them in Costco again, I want to look him in the eyes and go, how's that heart doing? Not, hey, we failed at taking care. We don't take care of hearts. I don't take care of your heart. I'll help with getting the vagus nerve to send better supply, but I also know when I don't set into the realms of what you need, but I can assist. So I think it's being very clear on the education part of what do you really do, what don't you do, being firm with being able to refer out and refer out for the right reasons. Like, we also do thermography in the office. Why? Because my sister had cancer 7 years ago. Her only choice after she was diagnosed with a mammogram was to go in the medical world. And I watched it tear the family apart when someone has to go through that. It's difficult to watch when you can't control anything. So it took me years to figure out what we would do. So we found out how we would help people understand their physiology better. And then we brought in technology that legitimately can rejuvenate and regenerate your cells of your body to help fight against things that aren't the best for you. And so we have found what the problem was, found what the hurt was in the community, created an option, and then we said, well, now that we can find it, what do we do if we find it? Because the people that are coming in for thermography don't want to go do chemo and radiation. So then we had to have something that helped them. But what were they understanding why they didn't want to go into the chemo and radiation? They understood that you can't kill the body to make the body survive. So they wanted to work on a cellular level. And so we found something that worked on a deep cellular level that actually was biohacking to the T. And we've seen phenomenal results with that as well too for people that cancer's disappeared and parasites jump out of their body. And it's when you're aligned, it's fun.
Wow. All right, I'm going to do a little bit of a kind of a recap here, and then I've got one more thing that I want to ask you about, and it's an important one. So stick with me here. So we've talked about qualifying your clinic, to be a clinic that should be expanding, should be, adding more services or more technology, et cetera, and having a strong foundation, making sure that your main thing is still your main thing and it's successful so that you can add on to it and not be stressed out of your mind. Secondly, having a good marketing strategy and understanding that you got to invest in that because people have to hear about it. And so you got to be willing to spend money. And somebody might have been freaked out thinking that they got to come up with another $3,000 a month. Well, marketing should produce the people that then, make you cover that. And it should be a minimum a 3-to-1 return. And I'm sure the return is much better. In fact, I know it is. It's a lot better than 3-to-1 from the clinics that I know that are doing this. So you have to have that marketing strategy, and there has to be that educational strategy to help people understand what it's good for, so that you can be talking to people that have that inflammation, whether it be, stroke people or cancer people or tendonitis people or whatever, educating about it. Here's the tough one, and maybe Ross, I know you're using it in your clinic, specifically Shockwave, but this applies to everything. It applies to the foot leveler scanner that is, gathering dust in our office. Who's going to do it? There has to be a human actually using it and performing it. And if your hair's on fire because you're so busy running chiropractic, you're probably not the person, okay, to do it unless you've got the capacity. So, Dustin, how do you help young doctors or old doctors that are busy, figure out whether or not they can incorporate something that's going to require more time?
Yeah, a great question, because that's the most difficult part, right? And some people, they do have the time to be able to do it, and others, they'll steal from what their quote unquote breadwinner is, right? And they don't understand what they're doing in that moment. There's actually an office that I know on the western side of North Dakota. They're running into that. They can't find, and I'm not helping them by any means, but we've talked and I know who they are. And they can't find that one person. So now you got a doctor that's going back and forth between the room, and you got people waiting, and then they can't build the office because they can't get new practice members in there. Patients, don't have a marketing team, because why market if you can't control what you already have? So that is a great question. So for us, when I'm helping these docs go through this part, is looking at their schedule and building it correctly. There's a lot of wasted space in a lot of people's schedules right now. And maybe a lot of the people on this call have great schedules and it's fine tuned. For us, we specifically put new practice members at specific times. We're not running between appointments. It is exactly at that time. If the doctor needs to be involved, or if you have that one specialist that, is a new patient director, then, that person has to have that time, because when you're bringing on a different service, it sometimes and many times doesn't align directly with the other services. So it might take more time. You have different, cases coming through, And you got to be able to shift that energy. It's an energy shift too, going in and out of those rooms because it's a different case. Chiropractically, you're taking care of someone that's typically well for the most part or back problem. And then I turn my head and I walk into a shockwave room and I got somebody who has a stroke, who has a sciatic issue or is paralyzed or, has, all different types of diagnosis, or maybe it's just a regular plantar fasciitis. So for us, I look into their schedule. I see what capacity are they saying that they already can't handle. And then from there, what is their ability to actually be able to hire somebody into that position? And honestly, at the end of the day, do you have time to hire someone and train them?
Yeah.
You're already busy
Um,
yourself. So then they hold themselves up going, well, I would love to have somebody, but I can't train them because I'm already too busy. If you're too busy, what are you bringing something else on for? So if you can't find who's going to run it, then you already should not be purchasing that device because you've already caught yourself in the bottleneck. So I think that would be like the main thing I'd say is if you're having trouble figuring out who's going to be hired, then you already know that you're in trouble. And then the device is not what you need. You need to
yeah.
figure out the logistics.
Yeah, same thing with Team Doc. People that are interested in adding Team Doc, there has to be that key person, that key employee, and it can be an associate, it can be a spouse, it can be a marketing person, it can be the main doctor. But who is the person that is going to be making all the inroads and the contacts into the community to find those sponsorship opportunities to get new patients in the door? I'd be a little interested to hear from both Ross and Preston on this. Ross, I know you got 3 doctors there. Preston, are you guys at 3 doctors as well? How do you decide who is kind of in charge of doing shockwave services in your clinics?
So the way we do it, whichever doc, like if it's my patient, usually they're scheduling them on my schedule, vice versa. But any of us 3 docs are able to see anyone's patients for shockwave. So we have certain times to where, might be my admin morning, like on a Tuesday. And if we get bottlenecked, I can jump in from catching up on stuff, and do 10, 15 minutes in there. But we also have interns and we also have trained now all our team members. So they can jump in there at any time. We usually are, I would say, overstaffed to give us that capability, just the way we built the clinic. So ideally, it's the doc, then it's the intern, and then it's our team members.
Okay. Do you handle things similarly, Preston?
Yes and no. The doctors always do the initial visit. Usually the first and second visit, because like I said, typically when they come in, they're taking x-rays too. I guess like I said, we're educating them. This isn't maybe just a shockwave. We're starting to stack services. So, we treat it like a report. And then after that, the ball gets rolling. Typically, we'll hand it off to Don and put it on Don's schedule. And then Don takes it from there. Or, if Don's backed up, if we have time, or Dr. Noah or myself, we'll do it too. But typically, we for sure do day 1, day 2. And then, of course, we've trained Don on it for the past year and a half. So we'll pass it on to her.
Dawn is your head trainer at the clinic, correct?
Yep, mobility specialist, head trainer, yeah.
And so she helps out with shockwave as well?
Definitely.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, it just, anybody in your clinic, if they're excited about the service, anybody can be trained. Like you said, for the last year and a half, they've been training on how to educate, how to explain what it is, what does it do, how does it work, what is it good for, and connect all the dots and then perform the services. So it's not like an adjustment where you have to be a chiropractor to do that adjustment.
Doc, I think that brings up a great point. As you're scaling your business, and you're a doctor, there's one thing you always have to do. You have to be the person that adjusts. These other services, it gives you freedom to be away, and the clinic can still, or the office of the business, whatever you want to call it, can still keep going. And that's what a business is for. It should still be able to serve humanity while you go and serve your family, meaning go on vacations, have the freedom, get that relaxation that you deserve to come back and be a better person for your community.
Yeah. Well, and Dr. Koo is on this call here as well. He's done an amazing job. I'm so impressed with Koo, with what he's done to add 8 weeks to wellness into his practice. And he started small. He started with just a little bit of equipment and just encourage people. And now he's got this, 1,200 square foot space that's full of equipment, and he's doing a lot of the training right now. But down the road, he's going to be doing less of the training and focusing on other things. This is how you grow your practice. But he started with
I have a trainer now.
You got a trainer now?
I got a trainer now.
All right. See, I mean,
Yep.
just in the last 2 weeks since the last time I saw you, things are happening, and that's the way it's supposed to go. Okay, we're right up against the clock here. Dustin, why don't you give information on how people can reach out to you if they want more information about this technology? And I know you represent multiple companies. There's different brands, different companies, different machines. You represent multiple of them. How can people get a hold of you to find out more about what it is?
Yeah, thanks for that. To be clear to everybody on this call or listening, I'm not working for any of the actual companies. I've just had the great privilege of actually utilizing the different services. So I've used SoftWave extensively. I've used StemWave extensively. I've used OmniWave extensively. So I know how all three of them can and cannot do the job. And there's a reason why we have a couple of them. We don't just have a SoftWave, we have 2 StemWaves as well too. And we do utilize them and for different reasons. So if you want to talk about that, I don't get $1 if you go out and buy a SoftWave or StemWave. And that's part of one of the things I told Dr. Jeff starting with. I don't want to be involved with a company that when I speak to you, you're going to go get it because that's where I'm going to get reimbursed from. I don't want that. I broke free from that in regards to being able to be a clinical trainer outside of that. So if you want to reach out to me, Dr. is and Dr. Barton at live.com. That's my direct personal email. I really, over the years, have become very, very fond of the freedoms outside of the business and what the business has created for my life. So I really try to spend a lot of time with my kiddos and watching them grow up on all the things that I missed at the beginning years of being an entrepreneur. And that's why I love being on these calls, is that, I've been on the other side where I couldn't get away from the business. And you turn around, next thing you know, your kids are changing clothes, size of clothes, they're going to different competitions, and you didn't see everything that you wanted to of why you signed up to be a doctor and an entrepreneur. And if any of this today helps you guys get that, encouragement of inspiration to self to get to that next level so you can enjoy your family in a way that maybe you're missing out on that 3, 5, or 10%, that's what I love about Dr. Jeff. I've been following him, been a friend of his, and boy, is he a great, great mentor and leader for all of you guys.
I appreciate the kind words. And by the way, little announcement: Dr. Dustin is going to be one of our speakers, one of our keynote speakers at ChiroLife in December. It's the first weekend in December. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's the 4th and the 5th. It's Friday and Saturday, the first weekend in December. So we've got a great lineup. And Dustin, you're going to be telling some great stories, and Ryan Reeder is going to be there. Dane Donahue will be there. Jason Gerard is going to be speaking. We've got great people going to be speaking. Susan Bowden, who's an attorney, is going to be speaking. I can't wait to hear her. It'll be a lot of fun. So I look forward to your message at ChiroLife. If you haven't gotten your tickets, anybody who's listening to this, go to chirolifeconference.com and get your tickets. Star Wars theme. I mean, it's going to be fun. And the theme is called The Force. And I think that's perfect for what our conversation was talking about today, talking about the Force. So thanks, guys, for being on this. Ross, Koo, Preston, Cassandra, thank you for your wisdom. Wow, that was awesome. Thank you, Dr. Dustin Barton. Great entrepreneur, great human being. I love surrounding myself with these kind of great people. So that was a fantastic episode. Please, if you learned one nugget from this, if you learned one thing, will you please think of somebody that you can share this with? That's how this gets bigger. That's how we pay it forward. So if you can think of one person that needs to hear this episode, even if they play it on 2x speed, doesn't matter. All you can do is push it out there to people. It's not your job to force them to listen to it. but it is our job to share the good news, share the messages, and hopefully they'll take advantage of it. So please share it. And if you get a chance, go and rate this wherever you get your podcast episodes. Give us a rating. We'd really appreciate a 5-star rating. We appreciate that. All right. We will see you again soon. Stay hungry. And as always, pay it forward.